Hello again, everybody, and welcome to another Inside Lowell podcast. I am your host, Teddy Panos, coming here from the WellPoint Studios here in beautiful, historic downtown Lowell. And today we want to offer you an inside view of the Mahoney Family Fund, Mahoney Family Fund, an organization that's been doing some great work here in our communities for a long time. And it's an organization that was born out of, kind of a tragic night, and yet the ladies here joining me in studios found a way to turn tragedy into inspiration. I'm going to start with the person to the left of your digital screen, computer monitor, however you're watching this Inside View podcast. Maureen Mahoney, the founder of the Mahoney Family Fund. How are you, Maureen?
Very good. Nice to be here.
It's great to have you here. Is this the first time we've actually seen each other in person? Because we've chatted on the radio a number of times.
We have, and we met one time at the restaurant.
At the Athenian. Okay, that's right. But this is the first time we've come face to face for an interview, right?
For sure.
All right. Also joining Maureen off to the left of your screen, Barbara Dunsford, a well-known person here in our greater Lowell community, a board member of the Mahoney Family Fund.
Yes.
Special advisor. You've got lots of titles.
Yes.
Maureen told me.
Yes.
And
It's
good friend.
A long resume. And
Good
yes,
friend.
mostly good friend, dear friend. Yes.
Well, I'm glad you ladies are here because this is something that it kind of the story behind the Mahoney Family Fund is kind of harkens back to my childhood and when I started to become aware of things happening in the world around me and whatnot. For you, Maureen, I'm not sure how you've been able to become such a positive force in our communities based on, the tragedy that unfolded and kind of led to why we're here today. But it's been 50 years.
It will be 50 years this New Year's Eve.
I would imagine that it seems like just yesterday. In
some senses it does, but a lot of things have actually happened this year, and it just reinforced the need to have this second tribute.
Yeah. So what we're talking about, for those who are not familiar, Maureen Mahoney, part of the Mahoney family, which was tragically, your whole family was murdered on New Year's Eve. On a burglary, a home burglary gone wrong. You actually came home to the scene. Please tell folks a little bit about what that experience was like for you and how that changed you and shaped you into the person you are today.
Okay. Wow. We start off on a light note, huh? I was home on Christmas vacation from Boston College visiting, and the family was hanging out, just sort of not really having any plans, just being together. And my younger sister asked me to drive her to a dance because her friend couldn't drive at the last minute. So I was out of the house for 40 minutes. And during that time, the armed robbery occurred. And it was planned. It was planned well in advance. These were very evil people that did this. And I came home and I found my parents and my brother. Yeah.
And you were how old? You were in college?
21.
You were 21 years old.
Yeah.
Most people who would have seen something like that or experienced something like that would have instantly, I don't know, been filled with rage, with hatred for the people who perpetrated this. You mentioned, you call them evil.
Sure.
They were evil people. They did evil.
Right.
And yet somewhere along the way, you found compassion.
Well,
for these people.
I wouldn't say that. This journey has, gone 360 degrees because I was really in a state of shock for about 6 to 12 months after that. And then I had a really, really difficult time, very, very difficult time. And I met someone in Boston. He became my husband later on, but we decided to move to Florida for a year, and I ended up staying. But that kind of took me away from the geographical triggers, if you will, and I was able to step by step, a lot of work, pull myself together. Did lots of different types of therapies, and actually had to meet this tragedy head on rather than avoiding it. Yeah.
And it sounds like what you want is you want to put something like that as far back as possible, but to move on, to be able to move on and to live life and experience life, you have to find some kind of way to deal, to understand. How long would you say it took you to get to kind of the place where you are today?
You know, I mean, every day I feel is a day of growth. But, you know, in 2014, I realized that the following year was going to be the 40th anniversary. And I recalled very clearly how on the 30th anniversary, the Lowell Sun did a big expose about what happened. And they had the 3 murderers and then my parents and my brother all across the front page of the Lowell Sun. And I thought, you know, this is another 10-year milestone, the 40th anniversary. I want to do something positive. I want to really remember them in a meaningful way. And I want to do something to give back. I want to do something that really helps curb violence. And in my opinion, a lot of times it starts at home. And that's when we started delving into the whole thing about addressing domestic violence and child abuse.
And you mentioned 2014. That's where Barbara enters the picture,
That's when
right?
I contacted a friend of Barbara's, and I didn't know Barbara. And then it was January of 2015, Barbara and I had our first phone call. And so, you know, Barbara knows everyone in Lowell. I had been in Florida for years. And so Barbara helped me out, and we, you know, my idea was to do a road race.
Yes.
Barbara, you can jump in here.
So
Barbara doesn't settle for anything that little. That would be too simple for Barbara.
well, road races are complicated, and you don't really make a lot of money in your first couple of years because you have to build up your runners and you have to build up your reputation. So when I got in touch with Maureen, she was coming up with, you know, this idea, and I said, okay. And we have, through this whole process, we have said, we call her parents and John the 3 angels, because somehow there's an intervention that is saying you're on the wrong path. And so Maureen was trying to get what a police detail would look like in Tewksbury for a road race, whatever. And finally she was going, oh, you know, we're having, you know, she's having some challenges. So I said, Maureen, I think we need to kind of regroup where we want to go. I said, road races, usually what people want to do, unless they're the best, they come in, they want their yogurt, they want their banana and their water, and then they leave. I said, so if you want to get a message to people, you have to get them in a place where they're going to hear this. So I had suggested that we do a gala. We do a night where you can bring in some speakers, and that started to take off. So I knew Kenny LaValle, and I asked Kenny if, you know, he could get us in touch with Ed Davis, and would he like to be a speaker? And it came back and it said yes, you know, he would like to do this, and he has his story about the night of the tragedy.
Ken LaValle and Ed Davis, both former Lowell police superintendents. Ed Davis, of
Security
course,
guy.
went on to be
Yes.
chief of police in Boston,
Yes.
Boston police commissioner.
Yes.
But they started as security guards.
And that's
The
St.
old
John.
Saints,
St. John.
St.
St.
John
John's.
Hospital.
John's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what happened is we got sort of that one piece. We got a speaker. Okay, now looking at a place, and we looked around, and we happened to kind of touch base with Tewksbury Country Club and Mark Ginsburg, who owns that and is a wonderful supporter of the Mahoney Family Fund and great Tewksbury developer. He came on board, and so everything was just coming into place that we would move forward in the fall with this event. Ed Davis being the speaker, Mark Ginsburg's generosity at the Tewksbury Country Club, and we were off and running. Now what we had to do is sort of bring that message to the people. And as Maureen said, it was 40 years. And she said to me, "Do you think people will remember?" I go, "They will remember." I mean, and that started it. So that was our first year.
And that was so was born the Mahoney Family
Fund. Yes.
Yeah, and your mission, I looked at your website before you ladies came in, breaking the cycle of violence. A difficult cycle to break.
It is.
And this is where I was surprised a little bit by when I said you showed compassion for the evil folks. That was probably the wrong word. I think the word was you got a better understanding a little bit of what led to that tragic night in 1975.
Exactly, because, it was years ago. I happened to be online and I found out information from people that knew, the criminals directly. I think there was even a daughter of one of them, and they had horrific childhoods. Horrific. I mean, lots of domestic violence. They were parents.
They grew up in an abusive household.
Terribly. And that's what they learned. And, it's hard to unlearn that. So, that's where all of this really began, to try to break that cycle. But, there's also another background story, which is that when my father, it was 1965, he got together with a group of physicians and a priest to address what they called the battered child syndrome. I don't know what he saw in his obstetrics gynecology practice, but I think he probably saw things, and the pediatrician saw things, and they said, this is something that has to be addressed.
And your dad, of course, your family was very well known in Tewksbury and in Greater Lowell. Your dad helped deliver so many of the children, so many of the neighbors who, kind of got caught up in all that tragedy that night as well.
Yep. Yes. Yes.
Rita Mercier has a story that her last child, she was thinking that it was time for kind of this child to come, and basically she had gone to the hospital, and the doctor there had basically said, no, time to wait. But somehow Dr. Mahoney got involved and said, no, it's time, and helped deliver this child, this last daughter of hers. And she is so complimentary and always so positive about what your dad did, and how if she had gone home, what would have happened, because she said in those days, you took the bus to the hospital. If you didn't get in the Uber or in your car and just drive over, you had to make more plans.
Yeah.
So along with the mission of breaking the cycle of violence, there was a quote that stood out to me from your website as well. Violence begets violence, just like peace will beget peace.
Right.
To me, that kind of sums up a little bit of actually the main theme of the work that you're trying to do and you're trying to accomplish. Do you feel you've made a difference?
I do. I think that, we've really tried to spread this message, especially now about promoting positive parenting. And we really tried to get this out through the community. And I think, it works. I mean, it's not an overnight change for everyone, but it's an educational process. So, we continue doing what we're doing.
And I know one of the things you've been working on is hit-free zones.
Yeah.
Explain to our audience.
And that is to curb the physical corporal punishment that experts, doctors, social workers, say 70% of all child abuse starts with discipline, and then it escalates and it becomes a regular thing. And before you know it, you have an abused child. So,
and so it kind of stands to reason. It's natural that if you don't start with that violent behavior, teaching that violent behavior, that you've got a fighting chance that adults will then not become more violent. There are stats that show the cycle of violence and how this works, right?
Yeah, yes.
Yes.
And really interesting research that I've just learned in the past couple of years on the brain, that the brain can shrink. You have less gray matter when children are exposed to hitting, and other types of adverse childhood experiences, you know, if there's addiction, if a parent's incarcerated, if there's mental illness, you know, all these things really take a toll. Yeah.
That to me is the most inspirational part of all this. Have you ever reached out to any of the family members of the individuals that were involved with that killing? Is there a part of you that, if you haven't, is there a part of you that would like to have some kind of closure in that regard?
The family members of the murderers?
Yeah, or the murderers themselves. Have you thought about
Someone,
because I mean, it's amazing to me that they should know kind of what their evil acts have spurred on is actually something inspiring.
but you know, Teddy, I think that these people are, that I'm no one to judge, that, you know, no one is beyond, you know, being helped, but they're really far gone. I mean, they're so deep into their lives of crime that I don't know. You know, I was approached there've been a number of people over the years that have wanted to write books on my family, and someone encouraged me to go into one of the prisons where one of them was and interview them. And, you know, I can't do that.
Yeah, that would be very difficult, I'm sure.
Yeah, I can't do that.
But it is still amazing how you've turned a tragedy that would have broken, dare I say, most people, and you're now providing something positive for the community.
Yeah,
We have in our first couple of years fundraisers, we raised a decent amount of money for kind of a just like organic, like out of the box type fund. And we gave that money away. We gave all the money away to nonprofits that were focused on child abuse and domestic violence. So we gave maybe about over the first 2 years $70,000.
yeah.
Then we came to the third year and said, let's do something different. And so what we did is we looked through the Center for Hope and Healing, a program where we could have a group go through a course, 6-week, 8-week course. And so Maureen, being a graduate of Notre Dame Academy, and that being a single-sex school at that time, we go, okay, we have a control group, i.e. girls. We'll look at juniors and seniors, and we'll have this 8-week program. Well, we found out very quickly after the first 2 weeks that these girls knew more than the instructors in terms of what we were trying to teach them. We were trying to teach them sort of safe dating, acknowledging abuse, being able to maybe defend themselves. These girls were like way ahead of us. I mean, like it was great. And then after that, we kept doing, because COVID hit, and then we ended up doing the community Zoom meetings and the positive parenting and the things that we continue to do today.
I just want to add something to what you had said, though, because I don't want to leave it like I wouldn't want to help those people. But over the past few years, one of them, who's out on parole, keeps asking to have his parole terminated and he can come back to Massachusetts and the contingent states. And this year, it looked like he's in Michigan. It looked like that was going to happen. He had a very good chance, and Michigan was saying how good he was. And so I kind of rallied the troops. All of my friends wrote letters, Barbara included, Senator Ed Kennedy, Ed Davis got in touch with the governor's office. A lot of people jumped in and helped and said, no way can this guy come back to our neighborhood. You know, he just wouldn't feel safe. So, you know, it's just, I just don't think that there were any good intentions there on his part.
So there were four people involved, if I remember the story
There
correctly.
were 4 people involved. The driver did not enter the house, and he gave all the information on what happened, so he was given a new identity. One of them died in prison. One is still alive, and one's out on parole.
Okay. So do you feel that justice was served in that case?
You know, I think that if they could, maybe to go back to what you had said, maybe if they could understand what they did and the horrible damage they did to so many lives, I think that's when justice would be served.
And they weren't, and they had committed further crimes, correct? Afterwards, they weren't apprehended right away.
They weren't apprehended until for 7 months, and one of them had violated his parole from Michigan. He was not supposed to be in Massachusetts. So, yeah.
All right. We're chatting with Maureen Mahoney, the founder of the Mahoney Family Fund. Barbara Dunsford is here as well, board member. So you told us a little bit about how the 40th anniversary started to spawn the fund and having an annual commemoration, remembrance. Here we are, number 50 now.
Yes.
October 9th at Indian Ridge Country Club. Sounds like this is going to be this event is going to top what you did at 40 and everything in between, right?
Well, you know, at the 40th, there were still people around that knew my parents. They're either unable to come or they've passed. You know, it's 10 years is a long time when you're getting up in years. But a lot of my brother's friends have been very helpful putting this together. And I expect it to be a really beautiful event. I really do.
And you mentioned Ed Davis speaking back at the 40th, 40th anniversary. Ed Davis is going to be there along with Marion Ryan,
right?
The district attorney. Getting one of them to speak would be quite an accomplishment. You got both.
It's humbling. And Ed Davis, you know, because we go back to that night, December 31st, 1975. And then him, you know, coming and speaking for us in 2015. And we've stayed in touch. As I said, he was helpful this year in saying, no. This guy is not coming back to Massachusetts. And he immediately said yes. Marion Ryan spoke for us at an event in 2016. We were addressing domestic violence. She's a huge proponent and advocate for victims. And then she spoke again for us during the pandemic on a Zoom webinar that we had. And she also, I'm just so grateful. She says that she'll come when she can.
And what else do you have in store for that night for folks who attend?
We are having we're having a live auction, and thank you, Teddy, for participating in that. We hope to announce early September our surprise auctioneer. We have to kind of wait to find out the schedule, but we're helpful. We're hopeful, and we do have a great plan B if something comes up. So that night is going to be one of. We're kind of mimicking what happened the first year in almost in terms of the food that we're having and the setup and the stations. Indian Ridge, we're going over there right after we leave you, and we know what we did in 2015, so we're hoping to do a similar thing. I didn't get to eat that night, by the way, so
she's owed a second plate.
Exactly. And so basically it's going to be an evening of getting together, of remembrance. We'll have the live auction. We may have another kind of raffle or something to raise money for the Mahoney Family Fund, but it basically is kind of bringing people together who we haven't seen maybe for 10 years and remembering this and remembering the good work that has come out of this and how many people have been affected in our communities, the parents of Lowell Public School who have been to these Zoom meetings, the clients of the nonprofits that we supported. So it's a nice ripple effect that the Mahoney Family Fund has had over the years.
How do folks get their tickets?
They can go right on our website, mahoneyfamilyfund.com. Right on the home page, there are 3 different links. You can just click that. There's $75 per person. Okay. And there are sponsorship opportunities.
I was just going to say, the ticket sales are nice, and I'm sure you'll have a nice crowd. Indian Ridge can accommodate a lot of people. Corporate sponsorships are what really kind of get you to the level where you can raise $70,000 at every event and whatnot. Yeah. How can folks? That's
also right on the website, the sponsorship opportunities.
All right. Website one more time is?
MahoneyFamilyFund.com.
All right. Maureen Mahoney, Barbara Dunsford.
Thank you,
Thank you very much for coming in and helping get the word out again about this, what I'm sure is a bittersweet kind of anniversary. But more importantly, thank you for just kind of being a survivor and making a difference. Again, turning tragedy into something good for our communities and probably saving a few lives along the way. I think that's pretty safe to say.
I think so too. Thank you, Teddy.
Thanks to both of you. Good luck.
Okay,
Good,
thanks.
All right. Thank you to Maureen. Thank you to Barbara for joining us. And thank you for tuning into this Inside View podcast as well. For those of a certain age, if you remember it was certainly a night that many of us will remember, even those of us who were young kids at the time. But it was moving for me to find out 10 years ago when I first interviewed Maureen about the work that she was doing, to see like what has come and what positive has come out of that. And it's glad to see it keep going, and glad that we can be a part of it. Hope you are a part of it as well. Thanks for joining us. Till next time, everybody, please stay safe, and we'll catch you on the other side.